Okay, awesome. If I could just go ahead and have everyone mute themselves, that would be great, just so we don't have any interruptions. Thank you everyone for coming to today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Sam Roach Gerber. I'm VSET's Vice President. I'm really excited to have everyone here today. So, we try to do Lunch and Learns as often as possible, and sort of since COVID, we've opened them up as wide as we can to include our whole community. And so today I'm really excited to be featuring my dear friend, Eva Shaw, who I met in 2017 when she applied for our Mid-Entrepreneurs course at Middlebury College. And Eva immediately was one of those people you meet and you just know that she has the entrepreneurial bug. And she had been doing all kinds of little businesses for years and years, and we just hit it off right away. So Eva has been just a staple of VSET, sort of one of our poster children, if you will, of really what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Whether it's getting out there and hustling, whether it's late nights trying to figure out problems, reaching out to contacts, just doing everything she could to make it happen. And I've learned a lot from Eva over the years, and I think a lot of businesses can learn from her as well. Especially businesses that have been impacted by COVID, that are sort of product focused. And we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting product-based businesses and aren't really sure how to start or scale. And Ava's sort of been through it all. So I thought she was the perfect person to tell her story. So before we jump into Ava's story, I do want to thank our sponsor for this event today, the Center for Women in Enterprise. CWEVT is Vermont's Women's Business Center, helping you start and grow your business. CWE lifts up women who lift up the world. The organization provides opportunities for women entrepreneurs and women in business to increase professional success, professional growth, and personal growth, financial independence. And their work honestly has been just monumental in supporting Vermont businesses impacted by COVID. They are a resource that VSET constantly recommends. Gwen Pacalo and her team are just incredible. So if you do need some support and maybe have some areas you need to follow up on and sharpen your skills in, CWE is definitely the place to go. So without further ado, I will hand it over to my friend Eva, who will tell us the story of Overeasy.
Thank you, Sam, and the whole VSET team. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Overeasy, my backstory, our product, and some of the things I've learned through the past couple years. If I can get the slide deck to move. Let's see. Was a big part of my family growing up. I spent every winter outdoors. Most of my summers I spent chasing snow. And so I always knew what kind of gear you needed to stay warm. But at the same time, I also hated the ugly clothing that my parents had to dress me up in, particularly my brother's hand-me-downs. I like to point to the photo on the right, this necky, and talk about how itchy and uncomfortable it was, and how that was the original inspiration for starting Overeasy. But what really inspired me was this love for the outdoors, and also a desire to look good and feel good while I was not only skiing, but just spending time outdoors and commuting to and from class and things like that. So a bit about my backstory. I was born in North Vermont, and I learned to sew in a home ec class. I was lucky to go to a really great public school through middle school. In the upper right, that's where I attended middle school. I learned to sew. And in true Eva fashion, one time I even sewed through my own finger and had to go to the hospital to have the needle extracted from my pointer finger. But I feel really grateful to have had that experience in middle school. That really invigorated my love for sewing. And I've been crafting and making things ever since. During my time at Ski Academy in Waitsfield, Vermont, I attended GMBS. I struggled with a lot of injuries. And during my second gap year, I was sort of coming to terms with these injuries, not being able to ski a lot, figuring out, okay, what can I do to started sewing again. And that's when I created the first hoodie. I was super lucky that the school let me use the art room for the entire winter. So I took over this probably 400 square foot space with what you can imagine is faux fur and fleece just exploding everywhere. Two 7th and 8th grade girls would help me cut and sew Overeasys, where I first sold on our Instagram page. But then I came back to Middlebury the next year, decided I definitely can't run a business while being in college. That'd be way too much work. So I put it on the back burner for about 6 months until someone from the Innovation Hub at Middlebury approached me and said, "Oh, you make those hoodies?" And I was like, no, not anymore. And they go, "No, like there's this J-term class, you really should take it." So I said, okay, I'll see what that's about. Put an application in, met Sam and Dave, and have really never looked back since. So like I said, I started in an art room. I made the first 250 products myself. I was up until midnight sewing faux fur, inhaling it, spitting it out in the morning. And coming back to college, I realized I wasn't gonna have time to, make the Overeasys myself. So I walked into class the first day with my prototype saying, "Here's my product. I have no idea who would ever want to make this for me." And got encouraged to say, okay, who would potentially make this? And so I put things out there on Facebook and the local listserv, which hit home. So this is one of our at-home seamstresses, and I greater Burlington area of women who wanted to sew from their homes. So we bring them cut pieces, they'd put them together, we'd pick them up. This is Sue in the upper right. She's a dairy farmer, and she would always give me a dozen eggs when I brought her more than a dozen hoods to make. We also use some alterationists around town. The winter is oftentimes a downtime for alterationists. So that was a great way to get started by utilizing these HomeSewers. But we were growing fast, and the need to scale even more beyond just our 3-4 HomeSewers came pretty quickly. So that's where Vermont Teddy Bear came in. When you make a product like an Overeasy or any faux fur, one of the biggest challenges is cutting the fabric. And so Vermont Teddy stepped in and helped us out with what's called die cutting. You can imagine like a giant cookie cutter. They layer up 20 layers of fabric, put a cookie cutter on top, and then bring down a press that's as heavy as 3 elephants. So Vermont Teddy Bear was super clutch in helping cut, and they even did some manufacturing for us. So we were super lucky to have their help in cutting and manufacturing, bringing cut pieces to our seamstresses. Since these photos were taken, we've actually expanded our production even more into just over the border into New York. A facility in Herkimer does most of our production. And our home seamstresses do most of our small alterations, or they do all of our prototyping, and we still keep them busy that way. But our facility in Herkimer is committed to employing as many disabled people as possible, and they really have a great social mission and have been an incredible partner. I started as a college student with $20 in the bank account, definitely posed its challenge. So when I was scaling for the first time in January of 2018, we started looking at the cost of producing a couple hundred units and realizing how expensive that was going to be. I came into class one day and I was like, "Dave, Sam, like my piggy bank isn't going to cut it." And so we started getting creative with ways to fundraise to front the cost of production. So the way we did this, and we've utilized since, is a pre-sale. We launched our website with our products, pretending like we had a lot in stock. And we said to our customers, we guarantee delivery between 2 to 3 weeks. And we did a couple thousand in sales that week. We used the funds we got to cover almost the entirety of our first production run. And although we were a week late to our customers, most of them seemed pretty supportive. The other thing that was really essential in financing the company was taking advantage of all of the resources and pitch competitions Vermont has to offer. So we've been a benefactor of both VSET's Female Founders Series, as well as I've had opportunities to pitch benefactors of Middlebury College and raise capital there. But I think the moral of the story is that anytime there's a chance for free capital or people who are willing to give and willing to invest, put yourself out there and make the ask. That's what we did. And the other thing that I think I learned a lot from pitching was figuring out who our customer was, who our brand was. Because when you get up on stage in front of 100 people, you really have to know your company in and out. So it was a great experience, and we wouldn't have been able to grow the way we would without. I've been super fortunate to have an awesome team of women work with me through the years. On the left is my co-founder, Meg Collins, who founded the company with me. And then in the middle is Sophie Highland, who will be taking over the company upon my graduation from Middlebury this year. And Izzy on the lower right, who worked with us for about a year. So I definitely have loved working with friends, and I wouldn't want to work with anyone but women. We sell 95 primarily to women, and I think knowing our customer is so essential. Plus, when women are just so underrepresented in the entrepreneurial field, it's such great energy to bring a team of women working together towards a common goal. And I definitely wouldn't have wanted to do it with anyone else. Working with my friends has been so fun. You know, like I said, we bootstrapped a ton. So this would oftentimes end up with us on a Sunday morning, hungover in the office, packing shipments, and things of the like. So, you know, doing that with anyone but my friends would have been really challenging. That being said, definitely separating friendships from businesses can be challenging. And I think in hindsight, having a stronger boundary between friends and business and the time and place for both would have been good. But I loved working with my team, and I'm so grateful for all those people who've helped me throughout the years. One of the biggest challenges in the beginning was understanding the value of my product. So on the left, you can see that was our original Google. You know, people are very willing to pay large amounts for the quality of product. And sometimes my thinking about what the customer was. I thought it was, okay, it's a college student, dispensable. I wasn't really 50, 60-year-old women.
Looks like we lost her. We'll give her a minute to get back on. Sorry about that, everyone. They blame Vermont for Wi-Fi, but it's really Colorado.
I'm just going to resend her the link.
Good time to think of any questions that you have so far for Eva. I know she's cut out a couple times, so if you missed anything, feel free to throw it in the chat. Hi, Eva. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Where did I cut out,
Sam? Just talking about knowing the value of your product. If you want to restart there, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe turning off your camera too might help.
On it. Cool. Sorry about that. So going back to the value of my product and understanding who my customer was from the beginning, and that, making a high quality product, we could sell at a much higher price point than $45 and $35 when I started it. So eventually we raised the prices to $60, which I walked into one of our retail stores the other day and they were selling it for $79. So pretty indicative of what they think the value is. But it's, a couple years in, it's much harder to raise the price now. So I think having I should have understood how much value there was to our product in the beginning, when I was getting started, rather than incrementally raising the prices over the years. Looking back, hindsight 2020, what I would have done differently. The photo on the right is Meg, my co-founder. On a Sunday, we were in our office, like either shipping or packing, and you can tell we're exhausted. We're college students. We both play on sports teams, and we just didn't have the bandwidth we needed to, take care of everything that was on our to-do list. So looking back, I think that I could have allocated my energy where it would have been used more efficiently. And things I would have wished I would have outsourced it earlier were a pick and pack, using a 3PL way earlier. Meg and I used to cut all of the fabric, as well as insert all the draw cords and do all the shipment ourselves. And then there was a lot of branding and marketing stuff we would do ourselves on Canva or on Adobe, and then doing photography and videography ourselves. And I think it was Dave once told me, so you can pay someone to do anything for you. And that to me was just such a crazy thing. But once I discovered that and, outsourced that entire production line, I don't lay a finger on our products now, from when they come in from raw materials to when they go out to the customer. And I think that's been really essential to scaling, especially as college students who have such little time when we're also, balancing an entire workload. We've utilized both retail and pop-up over the years. 2020 has definitely thrown a curveball on that. Our retail accounts are down probably 50%, and we haven't had a single pop-up due to obvious reasons. But I think there's benefits to both. Retail, for one, increasing geographical reach. We opened 3 wholesale accounts in Stowe, and we've never had so many direct-to-consumer sales from Stowe in the past 2 years. Doing retail accounts allowed us to increase production and have lower production costs. It's also been great for brand awareness. Our customers love seeing our products in stores, and ultimately customers buy from the store and fall in love with the product, and their second, third, and fourth sales come back to the website. Pop-ups are honestly probably my favorite part about running the business. They're so great for morale and having fun. The picture on the right is from the Killington World Cup, where there are over 25,000 fans. We had a pop-up last year, and that's with Corinne Prevost, the founder of Skida. So just the ability to connect with customers and achieve close to full margins with pop-ups, other than what the overhead costs are 2 things that are super advantageous. And what I found is they just reinvigorate the team with energy. Seeing someone who's never picked up an Overeasy before put it on and be like, wow, this is the coziest, softest thing I've ever worn, it just warms your heart and makes you really come back to the reasons that you started the company, and makes me really appreciative for all of our loyal customers out there. And in the lower left is Meg at our first wholesale account. We now sell in about 20 stores across New England and the Rocky West. But given that it's 2020, most of our efforts have focused on e-commerce. And I think it's shockingly easy to sell online. I remember our first couple of days of mid-entrepreneurs, we went from having product to having a website and doing sales, I think, end to end in like less than 2 days. Shopify and similar platforms make it super easy to build a website. So user-friendly, can take you an hour to build a super simple website. Facebook Marketplace and the Instagram Shop Now feature have been super helpful for us. Tagging products in our Instagram. We've been way more successful this year than any years past in pushing product through our social channels. And those are relatively easy to set up as well. This is the first year we've started doing email marketing. Shout out to Sophie, our new team member, who's spearheaded that, if you've been getting blown up by our emails. And we've had a lot of success in that, particularly in returning customers. And then gift guides, press, influencers, bloggers, getting the right visibility at the right time can be really big. We had one segment on Made in Vermont last year in December, and it was huge for our Q4. We also have some e-commerce partners like the Grommet and Fair, the Grommet's a unique gift guide finding website, sort of a wholesale partnership, but they do all online, direct to consumer, and they've been a huge partner for us and a growing partner. And then finally, I think just in e-commerce, customer service is key. So whether it be Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs, or anyone who reaches out to us via email, trying to get back to them within a couple of hours, and always assuming that the customer is right, as well as just speediness of replies has been crucial in building our e-commerce business and a good customer service reputation. As a college student who doesn't know a lot, I really couldn't have done it without my mentors. And I could have filled this page and more with all the people who've helped me over the years, but special shout out to Sam and Dave from BSET, Heather from the Innovation Hub at Middlebury, John Osley, my uncle Beach, who's the sales rep and helped us get into a lot of retail stores, and the rest of my family, and Dave and Duna, who have been just crucial in helping me grow and scale the business and provide connections. My biggest takeaway is that everyone else knows a lot more than I do. And so when I don't know something, to go ask for help. And I've just been overwhelmed with the generosity and guidance of the people willing to sit down and take the time, and just to believe in the business, especially in times of where I've been questioning myself of, is this what I want to do? Is this product really that great? To sit down and with someone who really believes in you and inspire that has been just so crucial in growing the business the last 3 years. I like to have this mentality of always hustling. So I never get through a pitch without giving an ask. And it's great timing that the Lunch and Learn is today, because it's also the last day you can buy an Overeasy in time for a pre-Christmas delivery. There's a VSET code here if you would like to buy an Overeasy for the holiday season. But something I learned in MIDI and have really carried with me is really truly to always hustle. You never know who your audience is, and have been in so many situations where the companies come up, have given a small pitch, and whether it be mentorship or capital that I've gone out of the conversation, you just never know. So always bringing the hustle 24 hours a day is my biggest takeaway from starting Overeasy. Thanks for having me today, and feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions.
Thank you, Eva. That was awesome. And thank you for the discount code. I'm sure a lot of us are going to pop onto the Overeasy website. So there's a few questions in the chat I'd love to moderate. And feel free to, if you want to unmute yourself and ask in person, you certainly can. I think the first one came from Keith.
Yeah, I was interested in how you went about sourcing your materials. And has that changed over time?
Yeah, it's definitely changed over time. We're in a funny size of the company where we're a little bit too small to go directly from a mill. So, to go over probably to Korea and source ourselves. So we buy from companies called jobbers. They're intermediaries between a mill and, small companies like myself in the US. So we buy fabric from Shannon Fabrics and Michael Miller primarily, but we even still do some of ours commercially from fabric.com or Joann's. The most it's changed over time, I guess, is the quantity and how early we need to purchase. So because we're buying in such large quantities now, it's really pushed up our production timeline. So we need to account for, a month to 6 weeks for deliveries of these quantities rather than beforehand.
Awesome. Next question is from Kristen.
Hi, Eva. You had mentioned that, I think you said when you were finished with school that you were going to be handing off the company to someone else. So I'm just wondering why and what's next for you. Totally.
So I brought on a new team member this fall, Sophie, who's on the Zoom as well. After running Overeasy for the last 3 years, it's been such a wonderful experience and I've learned so much, but I decided I didn't want to work in the clothing industry or in that space. And so I decided to look at other career opportunities, and I'll be starting a job in investment banking in New York. But it was a goal of mine to make sure that Overeasy didn't die. And so handing it down to a Middlebury student who's 2 years behind me is going to be a great opportunity to keep business local, have another student like myself learn and grow from the experience, and, you know, continue to give cozy, warm hoods to people all over the U.S.
That's awesome, Eva. Congrats on that. And just a testament to you always hustling. And then next strew of questions is from Sam. So I'm curious to hear the answers to these two.
I was just firing them off. So my first question, Eva, was how do you keep your passion for the product when you're no longer making it yourself? And how do you keep an eye on quality control? I think that's sort of a big one with makers, is like they have a really hard time sort of letting go of that grip when they switch from making it themselves to hiring sewers. So I'd love to hear how you sort of handled that.
Yeah, it's definitely a gradual process. I'll say that I was in my HomeSewers houses every day when they first started checking out the product. But I quickly realized that my middle school home ec classes were far inferior to all those people sewing for me, and that the quality control issue was actually more when I would sew the product, which was pretty comical. But now that we are on a much larger scale, you know, producing thousands of units, you just run across more quality control issues, I think, in general. So we always have samples sent from the manufacturer in New York over to check them out and make sure everything looks okay before they go to customers. But inevitably, you'll have a customer who gets a product and the logo falls off, or they forgot to close the final seam and there's a small hole. And so I think running across those issues and just bringing them to the attention of our manufacturer is key for quality, and making sure we always, you know, replace the product for the customer is super important. In terms of your question for pitching new retail accounts, Sophie and I have been talking about this a lot this fall. My favorite tactic is to go to stores in person and shop around for like 20 minutes and pretend like I'm a customer and try some clothes on and maybe buy something. And when I go to checkout, then I have already built a relationship with the salesperson. So I go, oh, by the way, you know, I run this company, and, you know, bring out some product and place a soft feeler, and then always following up with a couple series of emails. And I think the other key thing for new retail accounts is willing to go on consignment. So if the retail account doesn't sell the product, they can send it back to you and not pay their bill. So that's been key for us getting into new accounts. And then once we have success, growing them from there. And then your third question, why have we been more successful selling through social channels this year? I'm going to have to give all that credit to Sophie, who has reinvigorated our Instagram. And I think that I think it's just the nature of 2020 that people are sitting at home bored and looking for ways, or looking for places to shop online. And especially the entire, you know, social movement that's happened in 2020, people are trying to support underrepresented entrepreneurs as well as small businesses. Feels like there's even more of a groundswell of supports around that. So I think that has been feeding our social channels, which have been feeding sales this year.
That's awesome, Eva. And I'm glad to hear that the trends that you're seeing are also of supporting like local businesses, underrepresented groups. Jayan, do you want to ask your question?
Sure, yeah. I was just wondering about, you were mentioning how important the press you got was, and I was wondering how you acquired that. Did you have to reach out to someone, or did they come to you?
I'd say the majority of my press came to me. They're definitely can go after it. And I think that's an important part of having the hustle, something that I've been working on. But cold emailing and cold calling press is always a good call. We've done a lot of that with not a ton of success. The press that we have gotten, or the bigger press, has come to us of, you know, the Made in Vermont segment, and then Vermont Sports. Those are sort of the two big ones for us. But it didn't just come to me, you know, it was me going to my mentors and other people I knew, and saying, you know, what kind of press can you get me? And do you know Oprah? So definitely having the hustle within your network is super important. And then whatever other hustle, whether it be DMing people or, sending cold emails. It's all good stuff. Sam, in the title of this, Lunch and Learn, brought up how I'd given Hoda, who's a host of the Today Show, an Overeasy. And when I was at the Olympics spectating, I had befriended one of the producers, and I traded her all of my best pins in order for her to get Hoda to come over to me so I could give her Overeasy on live television. So I think it's bringing that kind of hustle and motivation and just doing anything you can to get it done that can help bring that press coverage.
Such an epic moment that was.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, just shooting off more questions. Love it.
Sorry, my interest has been piqued. I'm not shy also, so that helps. So one question that I see all the time from different entrepreneurs is like how to manage a seasonal product. Like how do you plan that timing wise for production? And then also, what do you do during the summer? Do you feel pressure to come out with a summer line, or can you just sort of, do the work you need to do to have a successful winter?
Yeah. Trying to think about a summer or less seasonal product has definitely been top of mind for the past year or two, just to, even out revenue streams. But in thinking about it, we want to make sure if we come out with a summer product, it's super authentic to us and really representative of the brand. Managing a seasonal product is a huge headache. You basically have one window to get it right. So, we have one production run, and if we overproduce or underproduce like I did this year, you miss the Q4 and the winter rush. So that's definitely a huge challenge. And so, my biggest learning moment is definitely always overproduce, always have more on hand for this time of the year. We ran out of 5 of our 9 SKUs on December 1st this year. And it's a big oh crap moment, because you realize you're not going to be able to restock the shelves. And then in terms of managing cost, having it be so seasonal is definitely challenging from the financing perspective. We go all summer long with so little revenue that there's no cash flow coming in. So fronting a production cost in August or September for the entire winter every year poses this challenge and forces us to get creative with pre-sales or other types of financing.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions? If not, we can just wrap up early.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry. You cut out, I think, Eva, a little bit when you were talking about first reaching out to sort of contract sewers in Vermont, like that kind of first step going from you sewing to finding HomeSewers. Can you just touch on that again?
Yeah, definitely. So we found the most success with posting on the local listservs. Most local community members are very engaged on them. And so we posted job listings or, these contract sewings, and we're able to get pretty good engagement. And then we would bring a sample set or 2 of cut materials and a finished product. And these HomeSewers would have a little trial where they'd put together a product and tell us, whether they liked the work, and we'd inspect their work until we felt like it was a good fit. So we also called the list of alterationists within like a 20-mile radius. So just picked up the phone and called them and said, do you have extra time? Do you want to build something start to finish for us? So those 2 avenues were how we first got a team of seamstresses on board.
And how did you approach knowing what to pay them? Did you have sort of any strategy going into that?
We had no idea. How I'm trying to think way back then in 2017, 2018, I guess, we looked at, we had asked each seamstress how long it took them to make. And it was really important for us to pay fair wages. And so we would base it off of, $20 or $25 an hour wage. And if they said they could do 3, we would divide that $25 in 3. And that's what we would pay them, and even varied seamstress to seamstress, because some were faster and had, you know, better sewing machines than others. So we wanted to make sure it was fair across the board, and we were paying livable wages to these women who are helping us.
Awesome. Thanks, Eva.
Also,
I'll stop asking questions.
how many seamstresses have you employed, like, over the past few years?
So it's gone in flux. We had 4 on our roster at the largest, and right now we work with mostly 2 in the Middlebury area. One was in Burlington and just ended up being too far of a commute for us to, you know, drop materials, and then another one just decided she wanted to spend more time with her grandkids than sew Overeasy. So we use 2 on and off, and like I said, we mostly use them now for prototyping and for, you know, doing the final last touches on goods and stuff that can be done locally.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you'll ever get to a point where you're kind of trying to get them manufactured instead of using folks locally?
Yeah, I mean, we're already there. So we were using a facility in Herkimer, New York, that is fairly small. It's about 2.5 hours from Middlebury, and it's hard to call it a manufacturing plant. It's not that big. It's a small facility, but they have a great line of seamstresses, mostly local women around Herkimer, that put our product together. But it's nice because it's a one-stop shop rather than having, you know, 3 or 4 seamstresses who are all 20 or 30 minutes apart. We can send a couple thousand units. They sew them all up, and then they send them to our distribution facility.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems way less complicated to be corralling many. Does anyone else have a question for Eva?
Yeah, if I could hop in with a follow-up question. Eva, awesome presentation, by the way. I went to school with Eva, so amazing presentation. Kind of a follow-up question to that. That office you use out in New York to produce material, is that exclusive? Is that like an exclusive partnership with you guys, or do they contract out with a couple other companies as well?
No, they contract out with other companies as well. I'm not actually sure the other companies they use, but it's a pretty big facility, and I think they do a lot of like putting together of like fishing rods and other things like that. Pretty simple manufacturing. So I think ours is on the more complex side for their manufacturing abilities, but they've been a great partner, and we're definitely lucky to have them.
Super cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eva. This has been so helpful and enlightening, and it's really nice to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Happy holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, guys.
So what's the